Longhorn fans, welcome in to another episode of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. My name is Michael Wein, and joining me, as always, is my fantastic co-host from Austin, Texas, Mr. Emmy Nixon, and we are here Sunday, September 14th, around 8:15 p.m. Central Time, post Week 3 in a crazy world of college football, where the Texas Longhorns kind of underwhelmingly beat the UTEP Miners, UT El Paso, at home yesterday by a score of 27-10. On today's episode, we will get into what in the hell is going on with the Texas offense. Is it time to panic? What do we make of this team a quarter of the way into the season? And then we'll recap some of the other happenings around college football. And I actually do have a couple important quick recruiting notes that I do want to share either at the front end or the back end of this podcast. I think after this week, in not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, we'll have time to get into more recruiting and other stuff, other happenings on the 40 acres when Texas is in their bye week. But as it says at the bottom of your screen, if you like what we do here, or if you just don't like the Longhorns, but you like to come in here and troll, that is fine. All we ask is that you like and subscribe to our channel. It helps our algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. Once you subscribe, you might even forget that you even did it because there are really no consequences for doing it. It just helps us, and we greatly appreciate it. So I think over like 75% of our viewers are unsubscribed. I don't know the exact number, but it's something like that. And so
Yeah.
please like and subscribe. It's 2 clicks of a button. It'll take you 2 seconds. But we're here, and we're ready to talk some football. So, Emmy, do you want to get into – well, first of all, how are you doing? And then second of all, do you want to get into these recruiting nuggets really fast, knock those out of the way, and then get into the football, or do the football first?
Let's talk about the Texas game first, and then we'll talk a little bit of recruiting, and then get into the other college football stuff for the day. But I really do want to start with that game because if there was ever a time in a win where you might drop in the AP poll, that was it. We were up 7-3 with like a minute to go in the first half, and scored a touchdown with like a second left. Well, nice drive, but my gosh, it was a rough go of it. Arch threw like a couple of balls that I just like that should just never be thrown in any level of football. Like not even peewee, like third grade football that ball should be thrown. He had multiple of those. So there's definitely a lot to discuss. There's certainly a little bit of copium to pass around for Texas fans right now. But not all hope is lost. At the end of the day, it's a win, and there's still time to get this thing rolling. But it is starting to raise eyebrows for sure.
At the end of the day, Texas emerged Saturday victorious. But at this point in the season, I don't care about the act of winning. What I care about at this point in the season is the process of winning. What does it look like against inferior competition? And to put it simply, it's just not good enough, not nearly good enough in any phase of this offense right now. You can blame Sark for the play calls. You can blame Arch for bad quarterback play, and it's been bad outside of like a quarter or two. You can blame the running backs. You can blame the receivers and Ryan Wingo. You can blame the offensive line. The bottom line is nobody is good enough right now. And when I say not good enough, I'm talking about, is this good enough to win a national championship? And they're not even close to that level right now. And I frankly, I like to think that I'm pretty objective most of the time, but sometimes I can I went to Texas. I bleed burnt orange. And so sometimes I can be a little biased, right? I can have the burnt orange, colored sunglasses and view it through that kind of biased prism sometimes. But this team doesn't deserve to be ranked in the top 15 right now. Maybe later on in the season, I think they have that kind of potential. Hell, I think they have the potential to be what they were at the beginning of the year, which is be the number one team in the country. Because quite frankly, they have a defense which luckily allows this offense to hopefully grow over the course of the season. But right now, A&M deserves a higher ranking, and Oklahoma deserves a higher ranking. It just has to be said. I mean, the Texas doesn't pass the eye test right now. There's a bunch of problems with this offense, which I'm sure we can dive deeper into. But my point was, they emerge on Saturday victorious, but the process of winning is not nearly good enough to win a national championship. It is defensively, and it was in that Ohio State game. There are players on this defense making plays. Grayson Littleton continues his freshman ascension with an interception yesterday. I thought Jelani McDonald played at an All-American level yesterday. He was all over the place. We don't really have to talk much about the defense. They're completely they're what we expected them to be. Now, would you like to see a little bit more from your playmakers? Yes, on that side of the ball. Where's Colin Simmons? Dude, you gotta start making some plays here.
Yeah.
Anthony Hill, he's been good, but he could still be better. The defense has been good though. No reason to panic whatsoever over the defense. Texas emerges from this game as the least impressive of the three-program love triangle that involves Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And we're at the midpoint of September. And so, Emmy, I'll ask you this question. If you can pinpoint two or three issues with this offense, what would those be? Even though there are tons of things you could
in my opinion, I don't think the offensive struggles are as widespread. I think it really just comes down to Arch. Arch just doesn't look right, and I don't know what really to say on this because we're not inside the head of Arch Manning. Obviously, we don't get to be in his thoughts and what he's actually thinking on the field, but it's uncharacteristic of a Sark quarterback and also uncharacteristic of him to play this way. He didn't play this way last year. He's already played SEC opponents and didn't play this way. He played against Georgia in a sparing amount in that game in October last year. He played fine. He didn't play great, but he didn't play like this. Now, my thing is, it's like the mechanics are off, the timing is off, the rhythm is off, like all of it. So it doesn't feel like something that's just going to snap into place. So it's really concerning. I think the receivers, like sure they could do more. Like there were a few drop passes here or there in the second half that I thought, those are plays that should be made. But in order for the offense to get into a rhythm as a whole, it has to start with Arch, and it has to start early on in the game. That was one of the wish list. One of the things you got on your wish list last week to get off to a hot start. And I want to say they went on a drive like mid first quarter, but it wasn't the hot start that we had hoped at all. It just hasn't been sharp from Arch, and the one thing that my untrained mind thinks when I watch him is like his base when he throws the ball is so wide. It doesn't look like he can get any power onto the football because he's trying to shot put it from like a super wide base. There's just no way you can create power from your legs when you're that wide. So I just from just a like from just what I know from like the golf swing in general, if you have a wide base, there's just no way you're going to create any power. Like there's no way.
Yeah, you can put lipstick and a wig on a pig, but nothing is going to change the fact that it's still a pig.
Yeah.
Um, you can try to dress it up or make excuses for what's happening. Is he dealing with some kind of shoulder injury? And if so, why is he even out there? Because you can make it worse. But the bottom line is he's been poor, and he's the quarterback at Texas. And I'd argue that the two most pressurized positions in all of college football are the quarterback at the University of Texas and the quarterback at Ohio State. And he hasn't been good. His completion percentage this season is 55.3%. And quite frankly, if you would have made me guess that without seeing that statistic, I would have probably gone lower than that. He's not finding open receivers. He's not throwing the ball nearly well enough. He's not delivering in the red zone. And he really hasn't truly found a favorite receiver outside of the couple connections we've seen with Parker Livingstone. The bottom line is he's not elevating what's around him right now. And I think if you look at what this staff, from an outsider's perspective, thought of this roster, I think with their approach in the portal, they thought that Manning would be a guy that could elevate some of the maybe shortcomings of this roster elsewhere. But he's not playing that way. And maybe that's not fair to have expected of him this early in his playing career. But he is the former number one overall prospect in the country. And he was the Heisman favorite a month ago. And it comes with the territory of having that name and being ranked that high and having all this hype. A lot of it not his fault, and he knows it. Like Arch knows. Like he's got to be a lot better if this team wants to achieve anything this year. A couple other things that stand out to me, because Arch is obviously one issue, and he's a big one. But when I look at this offense, since Manning's current quality of play isn't making the team better, and quite frankly, I don't really know how to wrap my head around the fact that the offense's best, like their bread and butter right now, is having Manning run the ball. That's how they scored 2 of their touchdowns yesterday in the red zone. Like, I don't know how to wrap my head around the fact that his best play in year 3 under Sark seems to be a quarterback run. And we're now into year 5 of Steve Sarkisian, and we're still waiting for like a super plus quarterback to emerge. It's supposed to be Sark's specialty, but we haven't seen it yet. And so I look at what they did in the offseason. They lost speed merchants Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, and Silas Bolden from last year's team, which followed on the heels of adding, Adonai Mitchell the previous year. And it doesn't seem to me that they have the same speed at the receiver position that they had a year ago. It seems like Sark made a very deliberate decision in the last 12 to 18 months to move away from speedsters at wide receiver. And they're now recruiting these bigger, stronger receivers that I suppose he believes he can win with. And I think he can. And to be fair, like, they were missing DeAndre Moore yesterday. They were missing Trey Wisner yesterday. There are some injuries that aren't helping the offense. But whatever it was, replacing team speed at wide receiver seems to be a problem. I don't think they've replaced that. And I want to see more out of this wide receiver group, especially Ryan Wingo. But we'll continue talking about that. Secondly, we've already talked about this a bunch. The moment Jaden Blue walked out of the Texas Longhorns locker room and into the NFL, the Longhorns were left with a serious lack of burst, explosiveness, and versatility in this backfield. From my vantage point, there are too many players in this backfield who just don't give the team the same kind of juice needed to get to the third level of the defense. All that exists right now in this backfield is Trey Wisner, 4.7 yards per carry. Two players returning from major injuries, one of which is hurt again. CJ Baxter has a hamstring, 4.8 yards per carry. The last time he was fully healthy. And Christian Clark, who previous to these last couple games had no career carries and is coming off an Achilles tear. And two freshmen that weren't viewed as impact recruits coming into this season. James Simon did some okay things yesterday, but other than that, like, it doesn't feel like they have game-breaking talent in the backfield. With 25% of the season completed, here's the running back production. CJ Baxter has 24 carries for 110 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns, a long run of 18 yards and 7 receptions for 22 yards and 0 touchdowns. Jarrett Gibson has 25 carries for 101 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns and a long of 14 yards, no receptions. Trey Wisner has 16 carries for 80 yards, granted only one game. He's been the best back, 5.0 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns and a long of 13 yards. James Simon yesterday, 17 carries, 67 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns and a long of 13 yards. 1 reception for 8 yards. And then Christian Clark, 14 carries for 53 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns, and a long of 13 yards, 2 receptions for 32 yards and 0 touchdowns. At the end of the day, we're through 3 games, and the Texas running back position has 0 touchdowns. And they have one guy averaging 5 yards per carry. And it's a guy who's currently dealing with an injury. The group's simply not performing well enough for this team to win a national championship. They're going to need a lot better than that. And then I'm actually not even going to bang on the offensive line because I actually think it's been pretty decent.
I think it's been good. Yeah.
Like, Trevor Gooseby is who we thought he was. And I think the other guys are doing the best that they can. But the one thing I would say is, like, they need to be better in these games. Because it felt like at times yesterday they couldn't run. Like last week, felt like at times in the beginning of that game they struggled to run the ball on San Jose State. And then at times yesterday they failed to impose their will against UTEP. They do need to be better, but they've been good enough so far. So it's like, I don't know, man. Arch has to be better first off. They need to run the ball a lot better. And I don't know where that necessarily is going to come from. The first thing they need to do is get Trey Wisner healthy. And then, like, the bottom line is, like, someone is going to have to step up in that wide receiver room outside of Parker Livingstone. Because right now it's just not good enough really at any level to win a national championship.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I am probably a little bit higher on what I saw from James Simon yesterday. Like I thought he showed some real juice, but regardless of that, he is a freshman and he still needs to get stronger before we can trust him against the Georgias of the world or even the Floridas of the world. Florida's defense is legit, so if we have any chance of putting up points against that team, we're gonna have to find a way to be able to run the ball better, just flat out. And not to bang on Arch, but Arch is a part of this also. When they've ran the read option, it feels like half the time he's making the wrong read as well. Like keeping it when he should be giving it when he should be keeping it. That part of it doesn't feel on the money either. Like it just everything from an execution standpoint just feels off. And in year 5 of Sark, that can't be the case. Like it just can't.
So can this be fixed? How do they fix this, if at all? Where does it start?
Mm.
Does it start with
Well,
Arch? Arch being more accurate? What is it? What ultimately is the thing that they have to do, or is there anything that they can do? And be honest.
I I don't know. I don't think with the way things are that this offense is going to be good. But I think can Arch Manning play game manager ball? Like sure. Um, like let's say he does. Let's say for the rest of the year, they'll throw it 20 some odd times per game, and he'll try to dink and dunk his way around. Based on what we've seen so far, that seems to be the weakest part of his game. Um, Arch is a gunslinger, and he's not gonna want he's not his game is not dinking and dunking. Like his instinct is to throw the ball down the field, and this team doesn't really need that right now with how good this defense is. So I just struggle to find reason to believe that this is going to get turned around. I think the hope is this defense is dominant enough that it can overcome everything, but the likelihood of that is extremely low as well.
So, given that, have your expectations of this team changed? Like, are they even a playoff team at this point?
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. But I hope they prove me wrong. I think the thing is, given the schedule that this team is going to play, um, like defense travels, obviously, and we're going to have to play some games on the road. But as it is right now, even in the home games, like, do you see this current version of Texas beating Vanderbilt? No, I don't.
Well, here's how I put it. Um, Yesterday's performance, if you replicate it 8 more times throughout SEC play, you'll probably be lucky to get to 500 in league play, because you got to play a much improved, very formidable Oklahoma team. You got to play Florida in the swamp, and I think that's a game Texas can win, because at the end of the day, that's going to be kind of their ball game. This team can win that kind of ball game, I think, as long as the run game can muster something. But even if you win the Florida game, you got to play a much improved A&M team. You got to play a much improved Oklahoma team. You got to play that Georgia team on the road. Um, there's Vanderbilt's pretty formidable, although I don't know how good South Carolina is. And then like Mississippi State's improve. Kentucky's never easy to go on the road and win there. If this performance yesterday is if they continue to replicate what we saw yesterday, they're probably a 3 or a 4 loss team. But if it gets better, I could still see this team competing for a playoff spot. And we'll just have to see where it goes. Now,
Yeah,
I do have things that I am excited about. Because I know we've been mostly negative so far, but I do have a couple things I'm excited. Well, before I say my part, do you have any aspect of this team that you're excited about currently, or things that you're excited about with Texas football right now?
yeah, definitely. I thought Ryan Niblett showed off the juice finally in the punt return game. That was a really good sign to see. Had a really nice punt return. I think he had a nice kick return in there as well. I can't remember. But he had a nice game. He had a nice handoff, get a first down too. Um, and then defensive side of the ball, Zena Umeozulu had a sack. Grayson Littleton had another great game. As you mentioned, Jelani McDonald played great. The run defense in general, the short yardage situations, like we just were flat out just stonewalling them, which was great to see. Um, that's the kind of like situational, like I guess attitude, I guess that dominant defenses have. And they showed that. And I get it. I mean, it is UTEP, but that defense played fantastic. I can't ignore that.
Couple things I'll rattle off to add on to what you said. Number one, Trevor Gooseby, everything I think that we hoped and expected of him so far. But that's about it on the offensive side of the ball. On the defense, teams seem pretty terrified to throw at Malik Muhammad. Malik Muhammad's been pretty fantastic so far this year. That's great. Good for his NFL hopes and draft stock so far. I think Hero Kanu and Murad Watson have definitely been playing some good ball on the defensive line. Murad Watson seems to flash every single week. And then Hero Kanu's been really good. The transfer from Ohio State. In fact, he's got more sacks and tackles for loss than Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Trey Moore, and Brad Spence combined. And then you have the special teams, which have been awesome so far. And when I say that, I mean the punting and kicking game have been much, much better than last year. Jack Bowmeister is everything that you could have hoped for as a starting punter. He absolutely booms the ball. And Mason Shipley seems to be a guy that can make field goals. Crazy how that works. And then, I think Texas potentially has 2 or 3 All-Americans in the secondary. I think Michael Taff is going to be an All-American again. He's just so good. He's better than he gets credit for. I think he's going to be an All-American again if he continues to play at the level he's playing at, especially if this defense is able to carry this team to another playoff appearance. Jelani McDonald is starting to tap into all that potential that he has as a player. I thought Saturday was his best game in his Texas career so far. He was all over the place. You could argue he's the best player on the field for a lot of that game. And then, there are a lot of positives defensively, not so much offensively. And I don't know that I want to get into the what is the conversation if Texas does go 8-4 this year? What is the conversation if they don't make the playoff? I don't know. I don't think I want to get into that right now. Maybe we do eventually, but we have lots of other stuff that
it's still so early on, and
we need to get into.
I do want to ask this question though. If this continues, and let's say Arch has a rough game in Gainesville, does Sark consider benching Arch?
Depends how bad it is.
Yeah. Well, we'll see when we get there, I guess. What were you going to say?
I'm not convinced that he's not hurt.
Yeah, something's off. Yeah.
Because he had shown us anything close to this bad in his first couple appearances. I don't know, man. I kind of hope that he is dealing with something, because if this is what he is, I don't know. I do think he's going to be clear, Texas fans, I do think there are going to be better days than yesterday offensively. But how much better? And is it good enough to beat a Texas A&M team that just put 41 points on Notre Dame? Is it good enough to beat Georgia, who just put up 44 on, I think, a good Tennessee defense?
Yeah.
Is it good enough to beat Oklahoma? Is it going to be good enough to have a successful season? I don't think it's going to be at this point in the season. Could my mind change in 2 weeks if they go up to Gainesville and they put up 35 points and win the game? Sure. But I don't think there's any world. We'll preview that game when we get closer to it. I still want to see what happens next week. See if they look any better. See if there are some encouraging things to come out of next week's game. And we can talk about it through the bye week. But looking at the way DJ Lagway played yesterday, is that going to be a game which is like first to 20 points? Because to me, it looks like those are two defenses with going against struggling quarterbacks. I don't know. We'll talk about that game more later on. Because Lagway was awful yesterday against LSU, but LSU's one of the most complete teams I've watched all year. So we'll see. Couple recruiting notes, and these are positive, by the way. Well, kind of, kind of positive, actually. In case you've missed it, which you probably have, Diabell did not play in his team's game due to some kind of injury yesterday. And he announced tonight that he's shutting it down for the remainder of his senior year on Instagram. Quote, due to an unexpected minor procedure that needs to be addressed. So, for the second year in a row, Diabell's high school season gets cut short. He suffered a similar fate last year, we all remember. But the good news is that he should be fine long term, and he remains locked in with his Texas commitment. This is what he said on Instagram. As disappointing as the ending of this chapter is for me, I am even more excited about being 100% healthy and starting the next chapter in Austin. Bell said on Instagram, to my new family, my Longhorn family, see you all in January. So that's not good news for him, but it's good news for Texas. Get right, get healthy, and we'll see you in January. And who knows, like, I never thought we'd be having this conversation, but if this continues, is Diabell the starter next year? I don't know.
I mean,
Um,
I'll say this based on what I've only seen him play one game, but that week one thriller where they came back, if y'all remember that, but I think given that he's had 2 season-ending injuries in his high school career, I would hope not. Like if Arch can't beat out Diabell, then that's worrisome.
quite
Even as good as
frankly,
Diabell is.
if this season goes south, which I don't even want to think about, but I'll give this Texas defense enough respect. Say they split the Florida Oklahoma back to back, right? I'll say they beat Florida and maybe lose the Red River game. And say maybe they lose another game before Georgia. So there are 3 losses going into Athens. Would you, this is kind of a rhetorical question because I don't think it happens, but like if the season does go south, would you even consider maybe shutting down Arch and seeing what KJ Lacey looks like? I don't think it ever happens.
Yeah, not in the Georgia game, that's for sure.
Yeah, not in the Georgia game.
uh,
I don't think it happens because I don't think there's a game that they can do that in. Like if he's not going to play in these games against Sam Houston State and, San Jose State and this stretch of what we thought was going to be a preseason ramp up for Texas, you're not going to put him in the A&M game. You're not going to put him in although A&M's defense is, well, that's another story for another day. Let's get back to the recruiting. Secondly, 5-star Texas running back Derek Cooper is ready for his UT official visit, which is going to happen next weekend during the Sam Houston State game. Remember, he's a running back from Chaminade Madonna in Florida who committed to Texas without taking an official visit. So he still has his official visit to use. Now, Miami's been pushing hard for Derek Cooper because he's the in-state elite running back. But Cooper said that he's looking forward to spending time with the coaches and his future teammates. Other schools like Miami continue to push for the Fort Lauderdale product, but he said he's still locked in with Texas. Said, I feel great about my commitment. Nothing but great things to say about Texas. I'm ready to go in and start my new journey. my new life. I'm ready to get there and get started. That kid is what I think he is. He could start next year for Texas if what I see from the running back room continues. But we'll have more on that. And then the other slight concern for Texas in recruiting is James Johnson, the super blue chip defensive line commit. Miami's been pushing hard there, but feels like James Johnson, after a visit this weekend, is still relatively locked in with the Horns. So at this point in the recruiting process, it's about holding on to your commitments, making sure all your guys stay in the class, and then trying to flip some targets. But we're not going to talk about that in this episode. What else? What else? Anything else on Texas football before we talk about some of the other happenings in college football?
Nothing else, but I do have like a. I do want to propose a slight adjustment to the second half of the episode.
Okay.
Um, my adjustment would be, what if we talked a little bit about the other happenings in college football, just like we were going to, but we focus on what how it affects Texas, like why it matters to Texas.
Okay.
Um, so starting with that Georgia Tennessee game, where is your head at with that game? First of all, just removing the Texas perspective from it, um, crazy game,
Mm-hmm.
super fun to watch. But where's your head at with it?
Well, I think what we watched is two playoff teams. Um, and how does that affect Texas? Well, it's not good because that's two spots that are swooped up in the SEC, and that's not including an A&M or an Oklahoma or an Alabama or LSU for that matter, who looks like a playoff team right now. Now things can change like that in college football, but feels like Georgia has their dude in Gunnar Stockton, who made some absolute like NFL level throws to get um, Georgia back in that game. Um, Now this was a game where Georgia came in favored -6.5, and Tennessee had their opportunities to win this game, but for some reason they can't get over the hump against Georgia. But you look at Gunnar Stockton, 23 of 31, super efficient, over 300 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 38 yards and a touchdown. It feels like they fixed the wide receiver position at Georgia. They desperately needed to go into the portal and get better at the wide receiver position that kind of held them back a year ago. Um, and it looks like they've done that with Zachariah Branch, some of these other guys they brought in through the transfer portal. Um, Passing game looked really good. I think Georgia proved to me yesterday that I've had my doubts about Gunnar Stockton and like how good he can be. Can you win a national championship with him? But he looks damn good. And then on the other side, like Tennessee had their opportunities to win this game. Um, Joey Aguilar looks really good. Tennessee definitely won the trade off of quarterbacks with Nico going to UCLA and bringing in this kid who's played at App State. 24 of 36, 370, 4 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, which played into the difference in this game. But like they've got some big, tall, fast wide receivers. Chris Brazel the second, Mike Matthews, Braylon Stanley. Um, and I think to a lot of the casuals in college football, Tennessee's a team that they're a NASCAR type offense. They don't really they throw the football, throw the football, throw the football. But that's kind of like the furthest thing from the truth. Um, the differences in this game, Georgia was more disciplined, only 5 penalties for 39 yards. Tennessee had 10 penalties. Georgia ran the football better than Tennessee did. And at the end of the day, Georgia made some of those winning plays that Tennessee didn't. They were better on third down. They were better on fourth down. It was a back and forth game all day, but Tennessee misses the kick at the end of regulation, and then you go into overtime with a team like Georgia, and the players change at that program, but that championship DNA never changes. It's always there, and that's the defense. Neither defense was great yesterday. The quarterback play was pretty damn good. But yeah, in terms of like how does that affect Texas? It's going to be damn hard to beat Georgia with how this Texas team is playing right now. They got to play a lot better to even stand a chance. And I think that's two playoff teams. I don't know what Tennessee's schedule looks like, but I think Tennessee's a playoff caliber team with the level of quarterback play that they're getting right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's safe to say that they upgraded at quarterback
Yep.
From the whole Nico situation. Going into the portal and getting a more experienced guy, albeit a guy that, had his fair share of turnovers where he was at. I can't remember the school for the life of me. But regardless, that was the big talking point was can he, stop turning over the ball? Because if he does that, then this offense will keep rolling. And that's exactly what's happened. The dude hasn't missed a beat. I mean, he did everything that he needed to do to win that game, it felt like. It just wasn't meant to be, really. And Georgia, until they are beaten by Tennessee, I think it's fair to just give them the benefit of the doubt because they have Tennessee's number, whether they're in Athens or not. They always beat that team.
Yeah. In the early window yesterday, we called this upset for the most part. And quite frankly, I don't know if it is an upset. I
Yeah.
think Georgia Tech might just be the better team. But the AP poll wouldn't tell you that. But that's another story for another day. I can't believe I'm saying this, but is Georgia Tech a playoff team? Listen to their schedule. Temple at home. Wake Forest on the road, but Wake Forest. Virginia Tech at home, who just fired their
Right.
coach. They're 0-3. Duke, who's 1-2. Syracuse at home.
What?
NC State on the road.
What?
Boston College.
What?
Pitt at home.
What?
And then Georgia at home.
Well,
To me, that looks like an 11-1 team going to the ACC championship, unless Miami or Florida State has anything to say about that. To me, they're the third best team in the ACC, clearly.
yeah, no, that's pretty clear. Do they play? Why don't they play Miami? That seems a
I
little
don't know.
strange.
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't
Come
know
on,
that.
ACC, like
To
we
me,
want to
like
see that game.
to me, I don't know. Looking back on this season, say Georgia Tech goes 10-2, they're not getting in the playoff, but like that's a program that they're good. Clemson, I don't know what's going on there. They can't run the football. It's baffling how bad their run game is. Feels like the loss of Phil Maffa and Will Shipley was massively like overlooked at like how that would affect this team. They're not running the football near good enough. They have talent in the wide receiver room, but like Klubnik's looked off at times. They're just not playing up to the standard of what I thought they would be, quite frankly. I know a lot of national pundits had them in the national championship game, and that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. The other question I wanted to ask you is, you think so? Clemson's remaining schedule, if we just start spitballing here, they still have to play Florida State, but they do get them at home in South Carolina. They also have to go on the road to Louisville, who's undefeated. They got to play SMU. So they still got some tough games left, and they've already used 2 of their mulligans. I don't even know, even if they run the table, if they're gonna have enough. Well, they might. If they run the table, they'll probably get in, but they'd probably have to win the ACC championship, and with how they're playing, they're not beating Florida State, so it's probably a moot point. Do you think Clemson's cooked?
Um, they have to win out, and when you have that little margin for error, I mean, we'll know like in 2 weeks' time whether this team is actually capable of running the table or not. Because it's like how you respond from this that's going to dictate how this actually goes. Because this loss, it's not like they got blown out of the gym at the end of the day. They lost a tight game that where they I think if from their perspective they didn't play up to their standard. So I think there's reason to believe if you're a Clemson fan that you can play better, but it's the same thing with Texas. It's like how much better, and like will that actually be enough to run the table? And the answer is probably not, because running the table in college football is really hard, no matter what your schedule is.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different with Texas because, um, first of all, they don't have to run the table,
Sure.
and they just have more opportunities for quality wins than Clemson does. But like, I get what you're saying. I'm looking at. So first of all, what the hell was that South Carolina? But at the same time, Vanderbilt very formidable right now. Um, they've already beaten down Virginia Tech, although they're bad. Like Virginia Tech's bad. They just fired their coach today, and they're 0-3. They just got blown out by Old Dominion. They're not good.
Yeah.
But they beat down Virginia Tech. They did what they were supposed to do, and then yesterday they beat down South Carolina in the cockpit. That was mightily impressive what they were able to do to South Carolina. So I'm looking at Vanderbilt's schedule. They got Georgia State next week. They'll win that game. They'll be 4-0. They'll probably be 5-0 after hosting Utah State. But then comes the gauntlet. They got to go on the road to Bama. But who says they can't win that game? They beat Bama last year. Then they got to host LSU. Yikes! But I mean, it's Vanderbilt. They could pull an upset there. They got to host Missouri, who's got a new really good quarterback in Bo Perbula. Then they got to go on the road to Austin. Then they got to play Auburn. Then they got to play Kentucky, and then they got to play at Tennessee. I wonder what the ceiling is for this Vanderbilt team. I was going to ask, can they make the playoff? I think that's a little bit too far. But could they win 8 or 9 games? Sure. Good for Vanderbilt. Um, Anything else? I guess the last question should be, how much, if at all, did we underestimate Oklahoma and Texas A&M? Were
I
we
think
were, were we were we too low on both teams?
I think the Mateer kid is. I mean, if you're a Texas fan, he should give you nightmares of Baker Mayfield. He kind of gives you that same kind of vibe. There was a play um, from last week, I want to say, where he had a dude rushing him in his face on a blitz. It was free rusher. Hits him right in the chest, and like a lot of times you'll see quarterbacks, they'll flop, they'll fall back, go like, hey ref, throw a flag, like throw a flag. But he made a point of not falling over. He stumbles backwards, stays on his feet, and then gets up into the dude's face and starts talking shit. Like, I love that shit. like that's if that doesn't scream Baker Mayfield to you, like I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you.
Yeah. Um yeah, I should say was waiting to see it with Oklahoma, but now that we've seen it, they look they look real.
They're legit.
They do have Auburn coming in this week. And their schedule is kind of a nightmare. But they still got 2 losses that they can, if it's a 10-2 Oklahoma team, they're probably getting in.
Yeah.
So I got to look at their schedule just to like remind myself what they have coming up. But I know they have Auburn coming in next week, and this Auburn team this year, with how they're playing, Hugh Freeze looks like he's going to be safe. He was on the hot seat coming in. Looks like they've got Jackson Arnold figured out enough with these receivers. Remember, they beat out Texas for Eric Singleton. That's paying dividends. They have Cam Coleman, one of the best receivers in college football. Looks like they've got things going there at Auburn to an extent to where I think they could win 8 games this year. And I think the Iron Bowl is going to be an absolute thriller this year. I think that game's going to be nutty. Just because I don't know what to think
Where is
of.
that game this year?
I don't know what to think of Alabama yet. But we're
Yeah.
going to find out. We're going to find out what Alabama is in 2 weeks when they go into Athens. That's when I know they blew out Wisconsin yesterday, but like we'll find out what this Alabama team is when they go into Athens next, or not this weekend, but next weekend because they have a bye this week. Anything else?
Yeah, back to the original question though. What is your thoughts on that? Like, how much did we underestimate A&M and Oklahoma? Because I think, we underestimated them both quite a bit. For me, it's like A&M. Like, I got to see it to believe it. It's still really early on in the season, and like, I think they have the right coach, and I think they're probably a fringe playoff team. But like, I still got to see it. But with Oklahoma though, I think. They've already had a 10-1 season with Venables. So it's like, I think they're already here.
Yeah, I think me personally, I underestimated Oklahoma a lot more than I did Texas A&M. Because to me, like Texas A&M's a program who they have everything that they need. But last year, in the biggest games, they didn't make the plays. They didn't make those few plays that they needed to win. The games that could have put them in the SEC championship game. Remember the loss at Auburn last year? Like that was there for the taking. They screwed it up. They're just a program waiting to kind of push the door down. And it looks like they're doing that. Although I still have some concerns about their defense. I just don't know if this defense is. I don't think the defense is good enough to say win a national championship. Let's see. What were the? Let me check something real fast.
Yeah, they while you're checking that, they did lose 2 top 50 like draft picks to out of their edge room. So and like a D tackle as well. I think who's on the Bears now. I want to say I think he went second round or early third round. So 3 top 100 picks out of your D line room to the NFL.
Yeah, but Texas loses talent, Georgia loses talent, everyone loses players to the NFL. That's part of it.
Yeah.
You can't be giving up 430 yards and 140 yards rushing on like the nightly in the SEC. Their defense does need to be better. Now, good for like we all remember what it felt like when Texas broke through in a big game on the road in 2023 on the road in Tuscaloosa. We all know what that felt like, and that's what A&M fans are feeling right now. They made enough plays to win yesterday's game, and Notre Dame didn't, which puts them at 0-2. I think the bottom line for this conversation is like right now, Marcel Reed is playing excellent football. John Mateer is playing excellent football. And Arch Manning is playing bad football. And if that remains the same, nothing else matters.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of what it is. A&M, when you look at, I think yesterday was key. Now they get a bye week, so they get to get healthy if they have any injuries. And by the way, I think they did a really good job adding playmakers to this wide receiver room. The Concepcion kid they went out and got from NC State, he's a dude. The Carver kid that they got is an absolute stud. Like they've got some real playmakers in that offense now. And now that Le'Veon Moss, like I'm nitpicking their defense, but also like the offense looks much better what
Yep.
it did a year ago. And I think Marcel Reed has taken another step from a pocket passing perspective. They get a bye week and then they get 3 home games. They get Auburn at home, Mississippi State at home, and Florida at home before they play the Arkansas game, which I think is in Dallas. And then they go on the road to LSU, which right now look like that. They've got a couple tough road games near the end of the season. They've got at LSU, at Missouri, and then they got to play at Texas, obviously. So we'll see where it goes, but they have room for slip up. They won a game that they needed to have yesterday, and at the end of the day, like they're 3-0 and they're looking good.
Yeah.
So I think we underestimated both. Me personally, I underestimated Oklahoma more than A&M, but they both are winning games, and at the end of the day, they both look better than Texas right now. So
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Well, let's
kind of where
close
we
the show here. We're sitting at 57 minutes. Let's close the show here with our wish list for Texas heading into Sam Houston State. Last week, I think our wish lists were kind of right on the money for what we wanted, and I don't think we really got much of any of them.
nope.
But it's a new week. So, what's your wish list heading into this game?
What is my wish list heading into the game against San Jose State? See, I don't know if there's anything that. Okay, I'll put it this way: score 40 points or more, break the 40-point mark. They need to do that because I expected them to do it in, quite frankly, all of these games, but they haven't done it yet. So they need to do that. Secondly, complete a pass to Ryan Wingo by the end of the third quarter. Is that too much to ask, Arch? Third, run the ball for 5 yards a carry or better. It's Sam Houston State. If they can't do it against them, I don't know what to say. Run the ball better. Complete a pass to Ryan Wingo. Actually, multiple passes would be nice before the end of the first half. And I don't know, get your head out of your ass, Arch. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I'll kind of add on to your point from last week. Like, just get off to a hot start. Like, I
That'd be
want to
nice.
see, I want to see 2 scoring drives, 2 touchdown drives right out of the gate. Just right from the get go, just go straight to it. Um, like, if we're being real, the whole script thing that Sark puts together, it hasn't really been good. Like the whole time that he's been at Texas, it feels like. There's been moments, but for the most part, it's felt like it's just been clunky at times. Um, and another thing is let's see a defensive score. Um, I'd love to see a defensive score coming, because I've kind of accepted that we are who we are now. We're going to be a defensive team. We're going to be a defensive minded team. So any way that we could, you know, engineer points from our defense, I think we got to do it. And give our offense some short fields. We got to do that too. So it's a lot of pressure to put on your defense, but we've put this defense together and they're legit. So I expect it. That's the expectation. That's how this team is going to have to win games.
Sam Houston State is 0-3. They've lost to Western Kentucky by 20. They lost to UNLV by 17, and they lost to Hawaii by 17. If this game is close, I don't know. If it looks like it did this last week, I don't know if we're doing a show next week.
Oh God, I will genuinely be worried for you if it looks like that last. Oh my gosh, like I'm gonna have to go down to your house and check on you, bro. Like like it's that serious.
Um,
Ooh.
yeah, it's got to be better. That's just the bottom line. And I think it all starts with Arch Manning. Like you just gotta, I don't know.
Just gotta find it. Just gotta
Yeah,
find it.
you gotta find something.
Yeah.
And the fact that this team's a defensive-minded team doesn't surprise me, because I think they were more of that last year than anyone wanted to admit. But like, I didn't think this would be this dire offensively. I don't think anybody thought it would be this dire offensively so far. And now you're putting even more pressure on a defense, which eventually, like, as good as they are, I don't know how much you can ask of them over the course of this season. Eventually, there's got to be a point where you have an offense that can go win you a game against competition not named, you know, um, you know, Manor School of the Blind or whoever they're playing these last couple weeks. So that's going to be something to watch. But regardless, like, we'll see what happens. I'm close to panic mode, but I'm not yet there. I'm kind of in, I don't know what's like before you go into a panic attack. What's the stage before panic? Is there a stage before panic?
I
Is
guess
it, is it,
hyperventilate. Like I guess like the
is it like
SpongeBob meme where he's like,
is it like concerned, worried? I don't know how I
yeah,
would
just
describe how I'm
the
feeling
hand
right
is
now.
hovering over the button,
Yeah,
but it's not pressed yet.
yeah. Um, and quite frankly, I don't know how much. Quite frankly, this is what I'll say to try to be a little positive. We're not going to know fully what this Texas team is until they play those first two SEC games. I
Yeah,
don't know that we're really going to learn anything on Saturday other than the offense learned how to complete a forward pass to Ryan Wingo early. The offense scored on their opening drive. The offense scored 45 points. Whatever it might be, like, it's still going to feel incomplete until they do it against Florida and
against the real
Oklahoma.
opponent. Yeah, no, I totally hear that. Yeah, and I think you're completely right. But that's gonna do it for this episode. Kind of a negative one, given the game that we just had, but um, at the end of the day, it's a win. So there's positives there. But my gosh, man, we're we're still right there in the mix of things, right there in the swing of things. It's still football season. There's things to be happy about, but I guess Michael, go ahead and sign us off.
Yeah, we're at the end of the day, like, we were negative on this episode, and hell, I mean, in 3 weeks we could be looking pretty stupid if if suddenly things click. But like we gladly feel stupid if that happens.
Yeah.
But we created the podcast to. I have a burning passion to talk Texas football and Texas sports, obviously, or else we wouldn't have started this. But like now we're at a point to where we're not judging Texas on can you make a bowl game or can you make the playoff even. It's how do you win a national championship? Because quite frankly, over the past 2 years, they've been on the brink of getting to that game 2 times. Program, I think you just pause, whatever. Oh,
Sorry.
we're back. They're the only program to go to back-to-back semifinals. So, like, reason we're being this harsh is because what we're seeing isn't nearly good enough to where this program needs to be with as much talent that they have. Like I can nitpick the talent on this offense all day long, but at the end of the day, it should be good enough to be better than what it's been so far. To be a lot better than what it's been so far.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been, and a lot of the finger pointing is going to be at number 16, as a lot of it should be. But like they're going to have to figure out a way to be a lot better. I'm kind of glad that they have a bye week after this next game. Hopefully,
Yeah.
they figure something out in that bye week that changes things. The good news is Texas fans, um, this team has a defense that if it's as good as I think it is, and I don't know if it's as good as last year, but it's still damn good. Um, they're gonna give them a chance to still win a lot of these games, even if the offense is not great or not
Yeah.
good. So we'll see where it goes. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. Keep your horns up. We'll be back later this week for overreaction or reality episode after the NFL wraps up for week number 2. That should be another fun one, and then we'll keep the thing moving. And even if it does, even if things continue like they are, we'll still do a show next week, but we just might not talk about the game. That might not be a healthy way to do things. If I'm
Yeah.
being honest with you, uh,
Yeah.
might just talk about the volleyball
Crash
team.
out on the internet.
We might just talk about the volleyball team who's beating 5 ranked opponents. Who knows?
Oh God.
But that's gonna do it, guys. We'll see you next time. Hook 'em.
Peace out.